Hello. Since I was not able to do the last Take a Bite PD session due to COVID, I wanted to go through the information that I was going to cover and get it to you guys in a video tutorial so you can watch it when and if you want. I was going to be covering grading and returning Google Forms assessment. So this is part two to the Google Forms trainings. The first part was how you create a Google form, the different kinds of questions you can ask, and the different settings that you can choose. And this part is about how you go through the grading and returning of grades and feedback using Google Forms. So I'm going to review the settings you need to consider for releasing the scores. I'm going to show you how you access student responses, how you complete the manual grading part, how you can give feedback to specific questions, your choices for releasing the scores, and then I'm also going to show you what it looks like for a student to see their feedback. So the first thing I want to just review, I touched on this a little bit on the first training on the settings, but I'm going to go to the Google assessment that I created. And I'm going to click on the settings wheel and I'm going to go over to quizzes. I want to just talk quickly about the release grade settings. So if you gave an assessment that was all multiple choice or grids that could be corrected for you, you can choose to release the grade immediately after each submission. So as soon as the student submits their assessment, they can also click a button that says view their score. Or you can click later after manual review, which will allow you to go in and review the scores, do the manual grading, and then you decide when you want to release the scores and feedback back to the student. So for the tutorial, I'm having later after manual review selected, and I'm going to show you how that process works. So the first thing you'll need to be able to do is access your assessment once you've assigned it. So if you assigned it via Google Classroom, you can go back into your classroom and find it the same way. So I'm going to click on classwork and I'm going to see that the test assessment is the last thing that I assigned. And I can click view assignment. From here, you have a list of your students on the left. You can also see the students that it was assigned to in the middle. And you need to be able to access each of their individual results. And the easiest way to do that is to just click on the assessment. And then down here in the lower right corner is the pencil, the edit button that you have access to because you created this. And you can click on that pencil. Now you'll see your assessment. It's going to open to the questions page, which is where you can edit the questions, and then you'll want to toggle over to the responses. While that loads, another option for getting to another way to get to your responses is to just go through your Google Drive, find the assessment within your Google Drive and just open it that way. That's another option if you don't want to go through Google Classroom, or maybe you didn't assign it through Google Classroom, you would just find it in your Drive. Now that you're at responses, there's 3 different ways you can look at responses. So the first one is a summary, and it's going to give you data based off all of the responses. So you're going to get some information and some insight on the total points scored. You can look at frequently missed questions, individual scores, and then it will go question by question, and it will give you percentages on the students' answers. If you had a question like I did where they had to submit a picture, you'll see a list and you can click on and access any of the pictures. Just clicking on it will open the picture in another window. And this is kind of your summary view where you can see all the responses at once. At the top, you can click question, and I can see that there are 18 different questions, and I can go through and look at each question and kind of see a summary of the answers as well. And then I can click on individual, and this is where you're going to want to go to work through giving feedback. So When you go to individual, you're going to be able to look at the assessment and scroll through the assessment for just one student. So over here, you can see the emails that you can choose from, and that would be collected from each of your students. And you can use this arrow to go to the next response, or just the drop down menu to pick your next student. We're going to use Jason's for an example. And now I'm going to scroll through and kind of show you how to do the manual grading. So up here, I can see that it's already assigned 12 of 24 points. So it has already gone through and corrected all of the autocorrect questions and given points. And as I do the manual correcting, this number will change if I assign more points. So let's go through and see what the different questions look like. Anything that was auto corrected will already have a score across from the question. You can go in and change the score. You might do this if maybe you changed an answer after you had already created the quiz or something, but you can go in and change the score. You'll notice that if I do an edit, it's gonna prompt me to save that, because it notices that maybe something about the final score will change. So I'm going through here. I'm noticing that all of these questions have been auto corrected because I had that set up. But now I get to this question and I notice that it is coming up as red with a big X on it. And that is because there is no score entered for this one. This is one that I needed to manually correct. So what I would do here is I'd click on whatever file they submitted, whether that was a picture or a video or a document. It would open that in another window, and then I can make the decision on the points. So I could decide that question was incorrect. I'm going to give it 0 points. I can go through and I would want to make sure I am doing that for each question that I need to. This one was auto corrected, so I don't need to do that. And let's give an example of how you might give feedback. So on this question, I might decide that I like this answer, but I wish that there would have been more elaboration. So when you click add individual feedback, you now have the option to type feedback. I could say, great answer. Next time, please try and you elaborate more. I can also link some feedback or link a feedback video. I will show you how to do that on one of the next questions, but when I click save, I'll notice that that individual feedback pops up right below their answer. I can edit it or I can delete it if I change my mind. And then you can see again on the bottom, it's prompting me that edits are pending because I have done something to the score, and I'll want to save that at the end. We'll go through and assign some more points. Crazy. And you're just, again, when I want to assign, I'm just kind of doing this randomly on each question. And you'll do that all the way through. Let's go up to the map question and walk through how you might use putting a link or a grade into your feedback. So and so the answer was incorrect, and I wanted the student to maybe reference a compass that they could review. So I could say, I think you have your directions confused. Please reference the compass. And I'm going to do this with a link. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to search for an interactive compass. This is a good one. And I'm going to copy that link and I'm going to put it right here in the link. If I want to give a description, I can as well. But I need to make sure that I do something that I didn't. So when I pasted the link, I need to make sure that I click add. I skipped that step just now, but I'll click add. If you don't click add, it won't actually attach it to your feedback. And then I'll click save. And now you can see that the link popped up here. So that's going to be something the student can also see when they're going through. I could do the same thing with a video. So on this multiplication problem, if I would like them to watch maybe another example or an explanation from YouTube, I would just attach the actual YouTube link right in there. And that would be something they'd have access to watch when they got their feedback. So I have gone through and I have corrected everything that I wanted to, and I made sure to click save so that all of those edits were saved. And now I can see that it has 18 of 24 points. So that did change as I went. Now that I've done that, I have some choices for releasing the score. You could choose to release the score right now because you're done with this assessment and you just want to get that student their feedback right away. If I want to release it immediately, I would click release score. I'd then be able to make sure the correct student is checked and then click send emails and release. And they would get an email that I will show you, but they would get an email saying that they have an assignment that's been graded and some feedback to look at. But you might not want to release the scores until you have everybody corrected. So you could move on to the next student, you could tab through, move on to the next student and correct their scores as well. If you don't want to release the scores individually, you will just correct on this screen and then you will go back to your Google Classroom. So now I am back into my Google Classroom. Anyone that was in my classroom and took their names will be over here. And I have two options for scoring. I can either manually go next to the student's name and type in the score that I know they got on their assessment. So I know they got a 13 out of 24 points. I can enter that in here and I can do that manually for everyone. Or if I want to save myself some time, I can go over to this import grades button. So what this would do would pop up this window. It's going to make sure that I really do want to import the grades and I would click import. I've already done this, so the scores have already come over, but what that will do is it'll take those scores that I just finished on the Google form and it will pull their grades right over here. So it just eliminates the step that you have to manually go in and put their scores in. It will just pull them right over. And then from here, you can decide how you want to return them. So if you want to return everybody's scores and everybody's feedback at the same time, you would check the box next to all students and then you would hit return. It's going to ask you to confirm that again. And then all students are going to get their email at the same time saying that they have an assessment that was corrected and they have feedback. If you wanted to only return it to a couple of students, you could check next to their individual names and then hit return. So that's your option. If you want to return it to everyone at the same time, you need to be doing that through Google Classroom. If you want to release and return scores as you are doing it, you can click the release score button right here on each individual assessment. The last thing I wanted to walk you through is what the feedback looks like from the students' end. So I am going to open up the email that I received when I took this assessment from my personal account. So I got an email that said, your score has been released for Google assessment. So I'm going to move this so I can see the most recent one that I got. It looks like this. I see my score right away, but then I can click view. it's going to open up my assessment in another window. So remember, this is viewing it as a student when they've gotten the email from you after you release the scores, and they can start scrolling through each section, because remember the assessment was broken up into pages, has a purple heading, and then it will give the overall score for that section of the test. And then they can look through each question. Obviously, green means they got the answer right, red means they missed it. And they can review their answers, and they can see if there was individual feedback. So we did feedback on this photo question, and um, I had that. I had looked at their photo, I had given them their scores, and then I typed this individual feedback, and it pops up right here below the answer. I did another example here on this question. So it would be easy to a student to scroll through this quickly and miss their individual feedback. That would probably be something you kind of want to point out to them to pay attention for. But they can see which ones are right, which ones are wrong. And here's an example of when I linked in some information for them to use for feedback. So when they're reviewing this question, I left a little note, like, I think you got confused. And if they click on that link, it's going to take them to wherever I linked them to. So I want them to maybe review an example or reference something from the internet. Clicking on the box will take them to whatever link you chose. So if you had chosen a YouTube video, they would click on that and it would automatically open up another window where they could watch the YouTube video or the tutorial that you linked. Again, here's just another example of what individual feedback would look like. And they can scroll through each of their questions. Because I had settings set where I didn't want them to be able to submit another answer or edit their answers, they can't do anything to change their answers if they see it's wrong. They're just simply reviewing their work. So hopefully this tutorial is giving you the answers to these areas. So we reviewed the settings for choosing how you want to release the scores. We talked through how you can find the responses, how you can complete the manual grading, and even edit the auto-corrected grading. You can give your individual feedback by typing it out, inserting a link, and inserting a video. You can release the scores either individually as you go or through Google Classroom. You can release them all at the same time. And just that quick review of what it would look like for the student after they received that email from you and opened it back up. If you have any questions about grading and returning Google Forms after watching this or after trying it, feel free to reach out and we can walk through it together one-on-one. Otherwise, I hope you learned something new from this, and thank you for watching.